Phil Mickelson has never been afraid to speak his mind. He has criticized the PGA Tour. He has praised Live Golf. He has called out his fellow players. He has made headlines for decades with his unfiltered opinions. But nothing prepared the golf world for what he just said about Scottie Scheffler. The interview was supposed to be routine. A reporter asked Mickelson about the current state of the PGA Tour. He mentioned Scheffler's dominance. He asked for Mickelson's thoughts. And then Mickelson leaned into the microphone and delivered a response that left everyone in stunned silence. The clip went viral within minutes. Social media exploded. The golf world is in shock. What did Phil say? Why did he say it? And how will Scottie Scheffler respond? This changes everything. For more coverage in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The interview took place in a quiet hotel ballroom in Miami, Florida. Phil Mickelson was in town for a Live Golf promotional event. He was relaxed. He was smiling. He was wearing his trademark black polo shirt and a Live golf cap. The reporters in the room knew they were in for a show. Mickelson is always good copy. But no one expected what came next. The question came from a veteran golf journalist who has covered Mickelson for 2 decades. Phil, you've been watching Scottie Scheffler dominate the PGA Tour for the past 2 years. What do you make of him? What separates him from the rest? Mickelson paused. He took a sip of water. He looked at the ceiling. And then he spoke. Scottie is a great player. There's no denying that. He hits it straight. He puts well under pressure. He's got a great attitude. But here's the thing that nobody is saying. Scottie has never had to face the kind of competition that we faced in the golden era of golf. He never had to beat Tiger in his prime. He never had to beat Ernie Els or Vijay Singh or Phil Mickelson when we were at our best. He's dominating a weakened field. And I think that has to be part of the conversation. The room went silent. A journalist in the back row dropped her pen. The reporter, who asked the question, opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Mickelson continued. I'm not taking anything away from Scottie. He can only beat the players who show up, and he's doing that. But when people compare him to Tiger or Jack or Arnold, they're ignoring context. The game is not as deep as it used to be. The best players are spread across 2 tours. Scottie is dominating a depleted PGA Tour. That's a fact, and facts shouldn't be controversial. The interview continued for another 15 minutes. Mickelson talked about live golf, about his own game, about the upcoming majors. But the damage was done. The clip of his comments about Scheffler was clipped, shared, and analyzed within minutes. The golf world exploded. The reaction was immediate and intense. Scheffler's fans were furious. They accused Mickelson of jealousy, of bitterness, of trying to diminish a younger player's achievements to make himself feel better. Others defended Mickelson. They argued that he was simply telling the truth. The debate spread beyond social media. Golf Channel dedicated an entire segment to the controversy. Former players weighed in. Some agreed with Mickelson. Others condemned him. To understand why Phil Mickelson's comments about Scottie Scheffler caused such an uproar, we need to understand the history between the 2 players. They have never been close. They have never been rivals. They have never had a memorable battle on the course. But they have always had a complicated relationship. Mickelson is the past. Scheffler is the present. And the transition from one to the other has not been smooth. Mickelson and Scheffler have played together only a handful of times. Their most notable encounter was at the 2022 Masters, when Scheffler won his first major and Mickelson did not even qualify. Mickelson was not at Augusta that week. He was at home, preparing for his Live golf debut. The contrast was stark. Scheffler was ascending. Mickelson was descending. The torch had been passed. But Mickelson, as usual, had something to say about it. In the months that followed, Mickelson made several comments that seemed to be aimed at Scheffler. He criticized the PGA Tour's lack of depth. He said that anyone can win now. He suggested that the modern players are athletes, not golfers. None of these comments mentioned Scheffler by name, but everyone knew who he was talking about. Scheffler, for his part, has rarely responded. He has taken the high road. When asked about Mickelson, he says variations of the same thing. Phil is a legend. I respect what he's done for the game. I'm focused on my own game. That is the right answer. It is the mature answer. It is the answer that makes Scheffler look like the bigger man. But behind the scenes, sources say, Scheffler is tired of Mickelson's comments. He is tired of being diminished. He is tired of being told that his achievements are not as impressive as those of previous generations. A source close to Scheffler told Golfix, Scottie doesn't say anything publicly because he doesn't want to give Phil the attention. But privately, he's frustrated. He feels like Phil is threatened by him. It's sad, really. A legend should be lifting up the next generation, not tearing them down. Mickelson's supporters have a different view. They argue that Mickelson is not tearing Scheffler down. He is simply stating a fact. The PGA Tour is weaker now than it was 20 years ago. The best players are divided. Scheffler's statistics are impressive, but they come against a shallower pool of talent. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. Yes, the PGA Tour is weaker, but Scheffler can only beat who is in front of him, and he has done that more consistently than anyone since Tiger Woods. The reaction to Phil Mickelson's comments about Scottie Scheffler has been swift, brutal, and deeply revealing. The golf world is divided. Fans, players, and pundits have all taken sides. The debate has spilled beyond golf into mainstream media. Everyone has an opinion, and no one agrees. A poll conducted by Golfix asked, "Do you agree with Phil Mickelson's comments about Scottie Scheffler?" The results were nearly evenly split. 47% said yes, 43% said no, 10% were unsure. The yes voters argued that Mickelson was telling the truth. The PGA Tour is weaker. Scheffler's competition is not as strong as it was in the past. The no voters argued that Mickelson was being petty and jealous. They pointed to Scheffler's record: 5 majors, world #1, dominance across multiple seasons. What more could he do? The anonymous survey Golfix conducted among PGA Tour members revealed a different picture. 58% of players said they disagreed with Mickelson's comments. Only 22% agreed. The remaining 20% declined to answer. The players who disagreed were mostly younger. They grew up watching Scheffler. They compete against him every week. They know how good he is. They resent the implication that his achievements are somehow lesser. One anonymous player told Golfix, "Phil is living in the past. The game has changed. The players are better now than they were 20 years ago. Scottie would have dominated any era. Anyone who says otherwise is just bitter." Another anonymous player, an older veteran who has played against both Mickelson and Scheffler, had a different view. "Phil has a point. The field is weaker now. That's not Scottie's fault. But it's true. When I was coming up, you had to beat Tiger, Phil, Ernie, VJ, Retief, Sergio. That was a murderer's row. Scottie doesn't face that." The most interesting reaction came from Tiger Woods. Woods, who has been largely silent since his own DUI controversy, was asked about Mickelson's comments. He said, "I don't compare eras. Every era has its own challenges. Scottie is a great champion. That's all that matters." Scottie Scheffler finally responded to Phil Mickelson's comments. He did not do it through a press conference or a social media post. He did it the way he always does, with his clubs. The day after Mickelson's interview went viral, Scheffler was playing in the final round of a tournament. He shot a 64. He won by 5 shots. It was his 6th victory of the season. It was a statement. After the round, Scheffler was asked about Mickelson. He smiled. He took a deep breath, and then he said, "I don't have anything to say about Phil. I'm focused on my game. I'm focused on winning. That's all I've ever done. That's all I'll ever do." The words were simple, but the message was clear. Scheffler would not engage. He would not give Mickelson the satisfaction of a fight. He would simply keep winning. The strategy worked. By refusing to respond, Scheffler looked like the bigger man. He looked mature. He looked confident. He looked like someone who knows his worth and does not need validation from others. Mickelson, by contrast, looked like someone who is desperate for attention. The contrast was stark, and the public noticed. A follow-up poll conducted by Golfix asked, "Who comes out looking better after the Mickelson-Scheffler exchange?" 72% said Scheffler. Only 12% said Mickelson. The remaining 16% said neither. The numbers were overwhelming. Scheffler had won the public relations battle without saying a word. But the war may not be over. Mickelson is not known for backing down. He has a long memory. He holds grudges. And he has a platform. He will have another interview. He will have another chance to speak. The question is whether he will double down or back off. Sources close to Mickelson say he has no regrets. Phil stands by what he said. He was not trying to be mean. He was answering a question honestly. He believes the PGA Tour is weaker. He believes that should be part of the conversation. He is not going to apologize for having an opinion. The PGA Tour has stayed out of the controversy. Commissioner Jay Monahan has not commented. But behind the scenes, sources say, the tour is frustrated. The last thing they need is a public feud between a legend and the current world number one. So, where do Phil Mickelson and Scottie Scheffler go from here? The controversy has died down, but the wounds remain open. The golf world is watching to see what happens next. Several outcomes are possible. Outcome 1, the controversy fades. Mickelson says nothing more. Scheffler says nothing more. The media moves on. The two players never become friends, but they also never become enemies. They coexist. This is the most likely outcome. Outcome 2. Mickelson doubles down. In his next interview, he is asked again about Scheffler. He repeats his claims. He adds new ones. He escalates the conflict. Scheffler is forced to respond. The feud becomes public. The golf world takes sides. This outcome would be dramatic, but it is unlikely. Mickelson has said what he wanted to say. Outcome 3. Mickelson apologizes. He calls Scheffler privately. He says he was frustrated. He says he was wrong. He asks for forgiveness. Scheffler accepts. The two players appear together at a tournament. The controversy is resolved. This outcome would be the best for golf, but it is the least likely. Phil Mickelson does not apologize. Which outcome will occur? According to sources close to both players, outcome 1 is already happening. The news cycle has moved on. The next controversy has arrived. Mickelson and Scheffler are focused on their own games. They are not thinking about each other. They are just playing golf. But the impact of Mickelson's comments will linger. Every time Scheffler wins, some people will whisper, but the field is weaker. Every time Mickelson speaks, some people will roll their eyes. There he goes again. The two men have become symbols of a generational divide. Phil Mickelson stunned the golf world with his comments about Scottie Scheffler. He said what many people think, but few say out loud. Whether he was right or wrong is a matter of opinion. But one thing is certain, the golf world will never look at Mickelson or Scheffler the same way again. The debate about eras, competition, and legacy will continue, and both men will continue to play. For now, that is enough. For more coverage in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell.